Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 226th episode of our first YouTube run through House of Light, playing as the Archaeologist. Now, I would like to start as an apology because I'm sure some of you may have noticed that there may be a change in my voice. And this would be because, as maybe mentioned in the previous episodes, it's a very busy week for work, big conference going on. And I may have had something resembling a salon, and it may have involved beverages with the intoxicating trait. Many wonderful people were involved, and I feel that I should actually mention one of my coworkers is very, very amusing when in his cups. Definitely tells a lot of the stories you would not normally hear if someone were perhaps in possession of all of their faculties. But they seemed to be aware of this. And when somebody commented on how funny he was, he merely offered, "Bro's been sippin'." And so I will do my best to put on a good show for you tonight, but I'm not gonna lie, Bro has been sippin'. So, let's see if I can idiot-proof my run here. First of all, I think I had a checklist, so it was going to be pentiments and precursors, desires and dissolutions, quenchings and quellings, rhyme and remembrance, and path and pilgrim that got the upgrades. We are in the evening, though, so although, hang on. Yeah, I'm already reading the books. Yeah, so my best bet here is just to let the evening pass by. I will mostly I think my best bet here, this is to get the taste verb, but I don't know if I have 30 seconds left for night. So I'm going to wait until I actually see the moon go away, and then we'll consider it. This is probably far enough. Drink the stuff. This will consume the beverage. If it's a whole bottle, consider serving it first so you don't drink the whole thing. Oh yeah, I guess I could have used these as an oh, actually. I think I'll be fine, but I could be in for a little disappointment. Saved. Right. So, pentiments and... oh, hang on. Yes, it was going to be pentiments and precursors. Alright, I have them in a slightly different order than what I wrote here, but of course it doesn't matter because I haven't, I don't have any of the memories yet. But what I can do is send a metal. There's not much work on offer in Brancrude, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. I don't think the clouds will help me here because... or, sorry, it does have moons, so that may wind up helping. The water of the Isle has a very faint, very distinctive taste, sometimes described as apple shroomy. Okay. I guess we put that up here. And because we have got, we're basically starting off with the readings here. Normally I would be opening a cache, but in this case I really just need to wait like 5 seconds, and then we'll have what we need. So. And Oriflammes. Oriflammes, established 1776. Sense, Signs, Sciences. Dear librarian, we would like to offer you this opportunity to purchase The Orchid Transfiguration's Noon, the third volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories supposedly by Robert Flood. This is in the original Latin. That's going to cost me... yeah. Oriflammes, thanks you for your custom. We'll read that as soon as we can, but obviously we've got a bit on our plate already. Well, this is going to be fun with my current state of my voice. The Geminiad, Volume 2, a fragile manuscript, illuminated with twin shapes of sad and luminous beauty, and with all the phases of the moon. It might be as old as the 7th century, but the language, few seen, is much older. The cover is dark and exotic leather, with a smooth, almost chitinous surface, decorated with jasper. These pages outline the 7 bloody natures of the daughters of Lagia, whose corrupted immortals gave birth to children in defiance of the laws of the upper heaven, who devoured them, in obedience to the hour's punishment, and who have been left outside the law. The second volume of the Geminiad suggests that these 7 corrupted immortals have been accorded the privileges of names of the witch and sister, or perhaps the sister and witch. It reminds us that the twins unite what is apart, and that the crime of the sky is in some sense a supreme joining, and it speaks at length about the sadness of the 7, the sadness of mothers whose children are forever lost, and far worse than lost. So that was the replacement for the satisfaction from the Salon. The White Book of Brittany, a volume of death lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman conquest. The white flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deeper than snow. The white flower is described as the death of wisdom, but wisdom can pass into sleep, not death, when the rage of glass is subjected to sufficiently powerful winter aspect while the ragged crossroads arts are invoked. Key of Night, the deliberations leading to a manifesto of the Worms of Escale is recorded around 1900 in the Bar Vienna in the cellar of the Hotel Ciervo in Noon. The Worms, all of whom use grandiose nom de guerre like Citizen Knife and the Midnight Pilgrim, agree that all previous iterations of their movement have been feckless and treacherous, and agree that the return of the pre-human hours, the gods from stone, is the true way to end the tyranny of eternity. The Worms identify the wheel, the tide, the flint, Sulochana, the spider door, the excellency Nathobasis, and Wickle Inextinguishable as the 7 necessary pentiments that must be returned to every history through the propaganda of the deed. This is an eccentric list and clearly a compromise. The process of thrashing it out clearly exhausts all the participants who don't specify the necessary deed beyond a vague reference to the loopholes. Lake Fusino recordings of the folk dances in the Fusine marshes. The wailing of flutes, the roaring of drums, cries like birds lost in the marshes. These are the songs the sisters sang to the witch, that the Thunderskin roared to the sky. The songs with which the Dwendrazons of the Mansus keep their vigil. Once heard, they are not forgotten. Okay, that's the old moment. I'm going to set that one aside. Hang on. Yeah, we'll probably have to use it for pentiments and precursors, but I want to make sure I know that. 5 creations. The itinerant scholar Shohai debated 5 possible origins for humanity, with a hooded figure since claimed to be the beach crow. Shohai later claimed that all these accounts had proven false, but the debate was nevertheless recorded. The carapace origin. We were born from shell, like the children of the wasp from the spider. The glorious origin. Our life motes descended from light. The origin befouled. We were found naked and smeared with muck in the roots of the wood. Shohai's preferred theories are that we are the children of apes who walked upright, although his tone here is satirical, or that we consume not only our parents, which is not the crime of the sky, but also our origin, so that we came from nowhere. Snare of the Tree collected proverbs of Aunt Mopsy. Once in the wood we call a visit, twice in the wood we call a journey, thrice we call coming home. Every timber has its knots, the straight and crooked both. Every weave is more absence than thread. You can't keep nowhere out any more than you can keep somewhere in. When the cuckoo learns the nightingale's song, our sleep is sweeter than honey. So this one, I think, would be for its moon. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, so we do need to use the old moment. Or actually, the Irresistible Feast might be more appropriate, given that I can get that out of a book right away. At last, I approach mastery. Singlefoot Songs. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest and diplomat, writes of his time on the slopes of Huashan, near to the grove of green immortals, but never too near. Schaller's relations with the grove are cautious. It's a library of the tree, but under the hand of the hour named Applebright. In time, however, Schaller comes to be more sympathetic to the Applebright, which he suggests causes harm only when so invited. The Singlefoots of the title are one-horned, one-footed hill things with sweet but powerful voices, powerful enough to open the mountain. The Singlefoot sometimes trample pilgrims, sometimes heal them, sometimes coerce them to enter the mountain and become Singlefoots. Schaller explains that when he found this last becoming too tempting, he decided to return to his homeland. Now, this was the problem. I didn't finish all of the books, and so I shouldn't necessarily have given up the Newman, but I don't think it will matter that much. An Exorcist's Field Manual, a practical guide to troublesome dead, grounded in theory, but with a clear focus on their disposal by the redoubtable Detective Ostieri Wheellock of the Suppression Bureau. The dead usually avoid light as the most immediate manifestation of eternity, which has no place for death. However, those dead uplifted by gold, that is to say touched by an actinic theoplasma, happily bought about in daylight and are perhaps strongest at noon. If you are dead but uplifted by green, that's the Ring-Use blessing. The crowned growth offers a similar but nastier benefit. This is how burgeoning risen come about, but there are different degrees of sentience and freedom depending on which growths are involved. The consciousness of one uplifted by green is always greatly altered, though they never really seem like the same person. They may have dregs of their original souls, but these are often replaced by something else. The upshot, invariably, is that they need to be set firmly on fire. A Pale Lady and a Prince of Wines, an anonymous biography of Eva de Wolf, last of the de Wolfs, focused rather salaciously on her personal troubles and intrigues. Eva de Wolf is engaged to one Abraham Wheellock, but he leaves her at the altar. Furious and humiliated, she returns to Brandkrug and is not seen in London again. 3 days after her departure, Abraham Wheellock's body is washed up near Gravesend. His face is so badly pecked by birds that he is only identified by his belongings. These include a waxed pouch containing a letter addressed to Wheellock, whose contents seem to show he is a spy in the pay of the Austrians. Subsequent investigation suggests the letter is a forgery, but the matter remains obscure. Lord Franklin Bancroft, sometimes called the Prince of Wines, begins a series of visits to Brandkrug House. His relationship with Eva becomes a source of scandal. Eva is by now 49, but rumors persist for years of a de Wolf-Bancroft heir. Eva's biographer claims that before her drowning death, her child by Bancroft was adopted by her friends the Southies, that the child became the sister of the later poet laureate Robert Southey. No real evidence is provided in support of this claim. So it occurred to me I can't use the Savage Hymn with the pentiments and precursors here, because that was supposed to go to the Desires and Dissolutions. It should probably go to Path and Pilgrim, if I'm not mistaken, but... And the Velletri interviews. Interrogation of a man named Lacombe, a former Nocturnal Branch inspector, now identified as terminally robagoid. Lacombe is not especially lucid, and the state, called robagoia, evidently includes a malady of the lungs which causes coughing fits. He weakens audibly over the course of the interrogation. He is questioned about the disposition of various unsanctioned items recovered from a Nocturnal Branch raid on a castle at Artuccio, in the region of the Fucine Marshes. He is, however, defiant as well as incoherent. Lacombe insists that the items have been put to good use. He derides Nocturnal Branch as the lackeys of Calyptra. Alarmingly, during the last few minutes of the interrogation, he begins to insist that his interrogator should burn the library. He waxes enthusiastic about the fire he wants to see, leading to the final coughing fit, after which the interview abruptly ends. Okay. So what we're going to do here, I did sort of do this in a bit of an odd order. Let me just double check my plan. So Desires and Dissolutions was going to be attached to the Pentiments and Precursors. That means I need 3 more for those. Those can be Grail, for instance. Then we have, and in fact, I could also use the phonographs for Beguiling Melody again. Quenchings and Quellings gets the Edicts Inviolable. Now that is, should be down by the 6s. Yeah, so that's Heart and Winter. Rhyme and Remembrance would get Sea Stories. So that leaves me with Path and Pilgrim, which is up here, and does have a scale, so I'm not, yeah, I'm not completely lost in terms of uses for, well, both the Savage Hymn and the Old Moment, to be completely honest. So, let's, I guess the first place for me to start here would be the Grail, because once that's done, I don't need it anymore. So, sorry, phonographs. All right, we will use a core. I guess it's the Lake Fusino recordings again. I suppose it invites a question in terms of what... so I could try to go for Fear, I suppose, with the recordings of the Altheban Abyss, because I would use that with Path and Pilgrim. I'm already working on a Confounding Parable, so I can't wait a minute for that. Same with the Stolen Secret. Okay, nope, actually, I'm feeling better about that. Now, we don't have a lot of FET, so I don't want to throw that away. Also, I don't have a lot of scale, so I may have to use another core. Actually, Faust will do here. And that does tie up my Deep Mandiac. So that's Path and Pilgrim. I'm not actually going to touch that, but I just need, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 with the Beguiling Melody. And so, trying to remember which of these I did. Was it Geminiad 2? Yeah, so we're on to Orchid Transfigurations of Birth. Yeah, we can do the Arab. So that's 5, 6, and then 7. I might be reluctant to use a Gossip here for the simple reason that it could also be used for Path and Pilgrim. So I'm just wondering if I've got a Satisfaction, what would the other Grail be? I guess normally I would rely on the Beguiling Melody in this case. Okay, well, you know what? I will accept... I'll accept that I don't always get what I want. Okay, so that's Pentiments and Precursors taken care of. Path and Pilgrim. So we've got 3 of 7. But the big problem here is that most of the Rose stuff that I would be using is otherwise occupied. So maybe we think about... You know, at this point, Quenchings and Quellings makes the most sense because it has no connection at all. Well, I guess the Heart for the Satisfaction, but otherwise, I believe we should have enough desks available. I also, if it's a Child's Treasury of Golden Afternoons, I just want to see if I could use, because I was reading these things in order, right? That's Edgeforge and Gray. I mean, the Grail could go towards Pentiments and Precursors, which frees up the Confounding Parable for Path and Pilgrim. I'm not opposed to it. think that's also in Hyksos. Okay. So again, pentaments and precursors done. Let's focus on heart and winter now. Although I may have messed up the number of rooms that I can, or desks that I can use. Let's do Black Book of Brittany. Okay. I think, probably against my better judgment, I'll try and do both heart and winter on this one. So foresight doesn't cover me, impulses don't cover me, confounding parables, but storm will. I'm trying to remember. I think we did Apollo and Marsyas last, so what does not bark? Can I afford another shaft? We're down to 2, so probably another metal would be appropriate here. Okay, patterns don't help me, but regrets will. Did we do... I think we did Keonid Abydos. So I think we're on to Annals of St. Brendan's now. Again, we can't do the satisfaction because we... Actually, I should probably keep track of where we are here. Okay, so we are 3 of 6 that we need. Yeah, we're... That's a shame. We're down. No, we're not, because I can... I think I can use the... I think I can get rid of something in the sea. Okay, but let's focus on the task. I'm trying to... Oh, well, we just did the hissing. Was it the hissing key? No, it was the key of night that I did. I think this one we're on to Oblations and Iron, maybe? And then finally, Governor's Desk. The salt does have a winter aspect, and fortunately we're currently using it. But Solace should carry me through. Do I have Fusine? Yeah. It's a little funny to do it in reverse order, but... So, I'm trying to remember, it's like lost that... Oh, I'm gonna need to deal with the... Oh, hell. Okay, Pale Lady and a Prince of Wines is for... Salt. You know what? That's fair. That shouldn't have lasted as long as it did. God, where did... I don't even remember what White Book of Brittany gives me. I may have a note somewhere on it, but I am going to leave that aside for now. And again, I do apologize. I realize this is potentially a second-rate stream. I didn't want to... I didn't want to like phone it in or cancel them, but shouting in a bar all night is not conducive to quality streaming. I'm sorry. All right. So yeah, we'll I don't know, I feel like we're going to be getting through these lessons pretty quickly. I think at this point I should maybe be worrying about running out of elements of the soul, but I think we're on a reasonable enough path. The books and the sweet bones are a little out of sync, but I don't need them to be in sync to get the advantage. I did say at some point that I was going to try and bring in the remaining guests for the Affair of the Second Skin, but that assumes that I have a desk that I can do the writing for, right? So It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Alright. The Orchid Transfigurations, A Birth, the second volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories supposedly by Robert Flood. This is in the original Latin. Flood, or pseudo-Flood, suggests alignments between the alchemical tradition of Rubidoux and the older Grail traditions through the Pine Knight's quest for the Cinnabar Cup. Seek the cup in the birthing bed, the Pine Knight is told. The midwife at the birthing bed, to his amazement, is the Mountain Mother. In a fit of awe, he both gelds and flays himself. The vigilant storm bursts joyfully from the remains. The Karashim Portalon, a beautifully illustrated and heavily annotated portalon, a nautical atlas of ports and destinations. It quickly becomes clear that many of its destinations no longer exist, or never existed in the traditional sense, but the annotations remain fascinating. The routes to Noon, the long sanctuary across the Western Sea, may remain viable. 2 pages have been gummed together. When teased apart, they reveal a route to Ye's Behind the Wave, marked in red and gold inks with heavily underlined warnings. Here the final city, strike the hours, lest earth and sky break open. Child's Treasury of Golden Afternoons. Once upon a time, a very bad man encoded very bad secrets into the charming illustrations of a book of charming stories. Wake the pictures and you will see. Lord Jacob Gristwood, surgeon, ethnologist, philanthropist. There's no proof he ever kept children in hutches beneath his bed. There's no proof he vivisected cats at dinner with his penknife. The Suppression Bureau keeps its secrets. Here's your paint, whispered the wolf to the pale girl. Here is your knife for scraping. Here is your face. The fundamental flaw, the irresistible shortcut, the hate that heats, the change that mars, the scar that opens. These are the foulest histories. Any librarian can use this to establish a history and complete the game, but the artist and the archaeologist can win a particular victory. So we'll figure out the destination for that later. The Black Book of Brittany, a volume of inklore gifted St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman conquest. The black flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deep, and they may not be hidden forever. The black flower, spoken of as a doom or guise, can be held at bay with the last ink of power brewed from the pale mixture in the presence of sufficient winter with the arts of containment. What does not bark? Alexander Propts writes warily of Calyptra, a law, principle, or society which prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. Calyptra, like the planet that occludes the star, or the Doylean dog that fails to bark, can be identified only by its absence. Even the name, I think, must be a mask. Calyptra is said to make exceptions specifically for the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. Does it make those exceptions so the Hours can make use of them? The Annals of St. Brendan's, over 100 years of the Abbey's annals, from 1230 to 1350. 3 events of particular interest are recorded. An endowment by Eva de Braus, widow of the marcher Lord Gwilym Dhu, Black William, which enables an expansion of the Abbey, the construction of the Winter Tower, which is dedicated to the Madrigad, and the death, by poisoning and arts unsanctioned, of Abbess Nona. After Abbess Nona's death, the double foundation is dissolved, and the monastery is reformed to accept only male novices. At this point, the ink changes. A helpful scribe explains that for the new foundation, the abbot has mandated Stargall, not Ugall ink. He outlines the differences, the use of inks of containment, techniques with sky, not nectar context, but doesn't trouble to explain why. I always wondered if this had something to do with the move from sort of something related to the sisterhood to instead the solar hours, but I don't feel... that doesn't feel right. I mean, it's already a solar gothic. Well, $12.30. Yeah, maybe, but It's like one of those things I kind of think but doesn't fully sit right. Oblations in Iron, a monster hunting initiate of the hour named the Colonel, who identifies herself as Little Sophia, records the exhibits she has rendered to the Worm Museum in the Mansis. Little Sophia has never visited the Worm Museum, or even the Mansis in person, and evidently has no desire to do so. She mixes ink which incorporates the remains of her prey, writes her records in that ink, and then burns them before the Colonel's altar. It is essential, however, to permit no drop of the ink thereby obtained to enter any portal of the body, even a break in the barrier of the skin. Should any fragment of the worm remain viable, it might enter thereby, and the hunt's ultimate conclusion be melancholy indeed. This was for Pathan. No, actually, sorry, we're still loading up on Winter. The Lake Fusino recordings of the folk dances of the Fusine marshes. The wailing of flutes, the roaring of drums, cries like birds lost in the marshes. These are the songs the sisters sang to the witch, that the thunderskin roared to the sky, the songs with which the Duendrazones of the Mansis keep their vigil. Once heard, they are not forgotten. So I do have a couple of ideas about next steps. The Geminiad Volume 1, a fragile manuscript, illuminated with twin shapes of sad and luminous beauty, and with all the phases of the moon. It might be as old as the 7th century, but the language, Fusine, is much older. The cover is tooled goatskin decorated with garnet. These pages outline the nature and the doctrines of an hour that weaves together the willing, an hour that is sought beneath the moon and at the water's edge, the sister and witch. The language is willful, naughty, poetic. It'll take some untangling. The first volume of the Geminiad reminds us that the sister and witch has been known to manifest as the witch and sister, and that this face is always hungry while the other face may heal. It implies connections between the sister and witch and the hours of the Upper Mansis, especially the lunar hour called the Meniscate, but it is ambiguous on whether the sister and witch is a Mansis hour proper, and it speaks at length about the sadness of the two who are one, the sadness that remains from their time as flesh. Recordings from the Altheban Abyss. Recordings from a subterranean space in the mountains near Baghdad of conversations between the entomologist Julia Zawadzowski and an unidentified presence. Only Zawadzowski's part in these conversations is comprehensible to the listener. The other side consists of grating, buzzing, and rumbling sounds. Perhaps only rock movements or artifacts of the recording process, which Zawadzowski nevertheless unhesitatingly translates. Zawadzowski seems to believe that the presence identifies itself as a name or remnant of the lost hour called Seven Coils. It pleads with her to assist its rebirth. It begs her to find something for it in the city of Emisa. Towards the end of the interview, Zawadzowski grows suspicious and repeatedly accuses the presence of being not the Seven Coils at all, only an inhabitant. The recording ends in mid-sentence. Okay, so we've got a lot of memories to play with, and we kind of want to get a better idea in terms of how we might put these best to use. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 already for the edicts inviolable, which means quenchings and quellings is ready to go. Now the merciless alteration in terms of what I need is really only good for desires and dissolutions. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more than I need for that. So here, I can give up the gossip for Path and Pilgrim, or the confounding parable. I guess the confounding parable lets me use the phonograph. And then now might be the time for me to consider using the clouds. So I moved that one down. I don't even have an intuition, actually. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I need 2 more. Under these texts, 3 and the 3. So that's heart, moth, and scale. Oh, right. Yes, scale. So that is helpful. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need to find 2 more. But one of these will help. Okay, I think I've gone on far enough. I will bring up... nope. No. Desires and dissolutions. So if it wasn't clear what I was trying to do there, it really was just I had had sort of a surplus of memories. Here we go, 2, 3. So in this case, I got to be a little choosy. Now, one of the other plays I could have made here would have been to try and translate the hindsight into something I could use with Path and Pilgrim. So the smarter move might have been for me to do Edicts Inviolable before I do Path and Pilgrim. But, I mean, the choice has been made, right? The good news here, though, is that, I mean, we don't have a whole lot more ahead of us. So we've got Pentiments and Precursors down. We just did Desires and Dissolutions. We clearly have enough for Quenchings and Quellings. So we're going to move up Rhyme and Remembrance, which is Winter and Moon. And then Path and Pilgrim, which is Scale and Rose. So the only real catch there is that some of the moon stuff that I would normally use is occupied by Path and Pilgrim. I'm specifically thinking of Confounding Parable here. But given that we only need 6, I can probably trade some of that off. So for instance, Intuition, Salt, and Stolen Secret would already bring me halfway just using Moon. And then for Winter, because I will be... I'll have already committed, or theoretically have already committed, Edicts Inviolable. That opens up Bittersweet Certainty, Regret, and at that point I'd probably consider Loss so that I could use the hindsight for Path and Pilgrim. Although it did just occur to me that No, I should be fine, because if we start reading the books now, it'll take 30 seconds. Okay, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing. But I'm going to leave it for the next stream. So again, I do apologize for not being 100%. I'm going to maybe try and make some tea and see if I can get Fridays done in slightly better health. But I mean, I'm working with what I got here. See you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Take care.